Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into well, a true modern cultural phenomenon. The cinematic trio of Makoto Shinkai.
It's really impossible to talk about anime on a global scale right now without him. We're zeroing in on his last three films, the ones that just exploded. Your Name, Weathering with You, and Suzume.
Right. And these films have cemented him as, people are saying he's the successor to Ghibli, or at least their biggest contemporary rival.
For sure. But what's really key is that these aren't just three hit movies, they're a thematic trilogy.
Yeah, no shared plot, no continuing characters, but they are absolutely bound together by this core exploration of love, hope, separation, and the big one, natural disaster.
That's the anchor. The invisible thread is the 2011 Tohoku Earthquake and Tsunami, 311. Shinkai uses these disasters, sometimes as allegory, sometimes directly, as the absolute emotional center of his worlds.
Which means for the Japanese audience, this isn't just escapism, it's a dialogue with very recent, very painful history. So our mission for you today is to really unpack that evolution. We're going to contrast these films across four dimensions: audience psychology, communication, their response to 311, and social commentary, to really get at what they reveal about modern Japan. Okay, let's start with the blueprint, the film that changed everything, Your Name. This is the one built on this narrative of miracle and perfect salvation.
Right. Taki and Mitsuha, the body swapping, the 3-year time gap, and it all culminates in Taki literally going back and saving an entire town from a comet.
And psychologically, this just hit a nerve everywhere. It captures that feeling of a missing connection or that weird nostalgia for something you haven't even lost.
And this is where Shinkai made such a brilliant pivot. His earlier stuff, like 5 centimeters per second, famously depressing endings.
Oh yeah, total gowners.
But Your Name offered the complete opposite. It's called a tragedy reversal. It gives you that miraculous reunion, which was basically fulfilling a collective desire for a do-over against real-world regrets.
Especially the regrets around 311.
Especially 311. The audience needed a timeline where the tragedy was preventable. And the body swapping itself, it's this ultimate empathy machine, right? It lets you bridge gender, urban versus rural, class.
All these divides.
Yeah.
So let's talk about communication, MV-style narrative. What does that actually mean for us watching it?
It means the film is structured like a series of music videos. The music by Radwimps isn't just background noise, it's
driving the story.
It's the engine. Entire scenes are cut to the emotional peaks of the songs. It's so perfectly paced for the short video era. You can screenshot any frame and it's gorgeous, it's shareable.
Which leads right into the whole holy site pilgrimage thing. The hyper-realism of the locations, like the Sugar Shrine steps.
It turns a 2D experience into a 3D tourist destination that creates this incredible long tail effect that keeps the film alive for years.
And historically, it's seen as this massive act of collective psychological rehabilitation for the trauma of 311.
It's a fictional salvation. The comet is the allegory, and the film rewrites history. And then there's the renewed interest in traditional culture, in Shintoism, the braiding, the rituals. It's all a search for Musubi.
Okay, let's pause on that word, Musubi. What are we talking about here?
It's usually translated as connection, but it's deeper. It's the spiritual force that binds people, time, fate, everything. The grandmother in the film is all about it.
So socially, it's a commentary, a call to rebuild those connections in a society that's becoming more and more isolated.
Exactly. It tackles that tension between Tokyo centralization and rural decay head-on. Itamori isn't just a fictional town, it's a symbol for every dying hometown in Japan.
So Your Name gives us this beautiful, comforting fantasy, rewriting trauma, finding that miracle. But then Shinkai immediately follows it up with Weathering with You, which is just so rebellious, so difficult.
That pivot is fascinating because the whole film is about this one choice. Hodaka, the runaway, meets Hina, the sunshine girl, and he can either sacrifice her to bring back the sun or save her and let Tokyo drown.
It's a shocking choice to even present to the audience. And he chooses her. He chooses his personal love over the greater good.
And that's a huge reflection of a psychological shift, especially in the Z generation, this idea of individual sovereignty. Many young people feel like the world hasn't been kind to them, so why should they sacrifice their happiness for it?
It's an appeal to the marginalized, the runaways, the orphans.
Yes, it gives them this extreme compensation. The world can end as long as we're together. It's so powerful and so lonely at the same time.
And that defiance, running from the police, fighting against all the adults, it's a rebellion against the entire system.
And Shinkai knew it would be controversial, which was Part of the communication strategy. He basically used controversy marketing.
He leaned into it.
He totally did. He admitted it would be polarizing, which just fueled endless online debates. Is Hodaka selfish or heroic? That debate drove the film's spread.
Visually, it was also extreme. The rain, the clouds. They called it super realistic realism, right?
Yeah, more wet than reality. And all that high-density realism was grounded by using real brands, McDonald's, cup noodles. It makes the fantasy feel incredibly gritty and lived in.
And historically, this is where it gets really dark.
Yeah.
It's a move away from the avoidable disaster of your name.
To disaster is normal. It's the Anthropocene. Climate change is here. It's irreversible, and we can't control it. So the question is no longer how do we stop it, but how do we live with it?
Wow. And the drowned Tokyo is like this modern version of Japan's historical sense of doom.
But this time it's systemic. And crucially, the film rejects that ancient logic of patriarchal sacrifice. You know, the weather maiden who has to die for the people. Hodaka says no. Modern humanism wins.
Socially, it's also a much grittier film. It really shows you Tokyo's underbelly, the poverty, the illegal work, the guns.
Substrata society that's usually invisible. Hodaka's fight with the system shows this massive generational conflict. The old social contract sacrifice for the collective, it just completely collapses in this film.
Which brings us to the final part of the trilogy, Suzume. This one feels different. It's a narrative of reconciliation, of direct confrontation.
It is so much more mature. It moves past the denial of your name and the rebellion of weathering with you toward, well, acceptance.
The story is a road trip. Suzume travels across Japan, closing these doors in abandoned places to stop earthquakes. And the final door, it's in Tohoku.
At the site of the 3/11 disaster, she has to confront not just the national trauma, but her own childhood trauma from that day.
Psychologically, that act of closing the door is everything. It feels like a collective ritual for the whole country.
It's a symbolic act of closure for a trauma that never really got a neat ending. And that final scene where the 17-year-old Suzume comforts her 4-year-old self, I mean, that's textbook inner child healing.
And she's so active. She's not being saved. She's the one doing the saving.
A huge shift in female agency. Which brings us to communication. The road movie structure was just brilliant.
Because it literally brought the movie to everyone's hometown.
Exactly. It leveraged that local identity. And it also used the aesthetics of ruins. These abandoned places are animated so beautifully, which sparked all these real conversations about depopulation and rural decline in Japan.
And the symbols were so potent. That little three-legged chair.
So simple, so effective. It's wounded, it's a remnant of trauma, but it's still functional. It's still moving forward.
But the biggest step forward has to be the historical dimension.
Without a doubt. This is a direct historical breakthrough. The film explicitly says the date, March 11th, 2011. It shows the disaster site. It's moving from metaphor to direct dialogue with the event.
It's an act of preserving memory.
It is. And the chanting, the door-closing rituals, are a modern take on the ancient Japanese tradition of Chinkan.
What's that?
It's a ritual to pacify the spirits of the dead after a catastrophe. Shinkai is essentially turning digital animation into a grand historical prayer for the nation.
And socially, the film makes it clear that the ruins aren't just ruins. They are places where society is retreating.
Right. And in that void, Suzume finds this amazing female compassion network. Single mothers, bar owners, all these women who help her on her journey. It suggests that when the big institutions fail, human kindness is what saves us.
It really emphasizes the value of just everyday life. The simple act of saying, I'm leaving or I'm home.
And that the greatest tragedy is the loss of that mundane, everyday routine.
It's just a remarkable evolution across these three films. You go from saving the past to defying the present to finally, healing for the future.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. The trilogy really maps out the post-3/11 psychological journey for Japan. First, your name. That was the denial, the desperate wish for a miracle.
Then weathering with you.
That was the confusion, the anger, the rebellion. And finally, Suzume is the formal mourning. It's accepting the trauma and finding a way to live with the scars.
But even with all that change, there's a core to his work that's still there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The purity of individual emotion, the theme of distance and separation, that kind of eternal adolescent viewpoint. That's all still Shinkai. He never adopts a cold adult perspective.
But his approach, his role as a filmmaker, has transformed.
Massively. You can see it in the aesthetics. He went from gazing at the sky in Your Name, the stars, the clouds, all very abstract, to looking down at the earth in Suzume.
The rusty train tracks, the abandoned
The
schools.
social reality. In Your Name, he used his art to erase the disaster. He saved everyone. In Suzume, he uses his art to draw the disaster, to acknowledge the wounds so we can move on with them.
So he went from being a poet to a craftsman.
A memory keeper.
He became a guardian craftsman for the nation. He consciously took on that collective trauma, and that's why these films resonated so deeply. They evolved right alongside a nation's own healing process.
An incredible synthesis. Well, that brings us to our final thought. Right. The wall and the egg. The unfeeling system, the disaster, that's the wall. The individual is the egg.
And in Your Name, the egg tries to change the wall. In Weathering with You, the egg just smashes itself against the wall in defiance.
Exactly. But Suzume offers a third path. The film seems to suggest that the wall is, ultimately made up of all the individual eggs, our society, our memories, our choices.
So the question it leaves you with
Is the most profound act to fight the world? Or is it, like Suzume does, by healing her younger self, to accept the wound and heal the part of the wall that is still you? It really challenges you to think about what role you play in your own cycle of disaster and recovery.
a really complex and powerful way to look at this trilogy. Whether you've seen these films once or a dozen times, we hope this gives you a lot to think about. Thanks for diving in with us.